Trevor Lawrence's hometown. Austin Lane back in the Action Sports Shack studios. And, Coach, we appreciate you joining us here in the offseason, if you will. But as we interview people around here in Cartersville, Georgia, Trevor Lawrence's hometown, the name Bartram Trail comes up quite a bit. You scared the heck out of these guys a few years back when you played them on ESPN. It
was a great game. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that.
So remind everybody about that game. You guys were down 28. You end up falling short, but that was billed as Joey Gatewood against Trevor Lawrence. You had a lot of good players. It wasn't just those two guys. In fact, Riley Smith was playing out at Boise State, and I think he's moved to tight end, actually. They bring up his name around here, too. They know it wasn't just Joey Gatewood. But tell us a little bit about that Friday night where there was, I think, extensive lightning delays, and you finally played on ESPN here in Cartersville.
Yeah, it was. It was a fantastic game that ended about a minute and a half too short. We did it. We had a number of lightning delays. It was funny because I had to give the pregame speech about 4 different times as we were getting ready to go out, and then got called back in. And it was just a lot of great athletes on the field. Great high school football. It was a lot of fun to be a part of it. I tell you, Cartersville did a nice job too. They really put on it was just a great setting and a fun place to play a high school football game.
Yeah, the atmosphere, they say, I think this seats about 5,000. It's not a huge stadium, but they said it was overflowing that night. Could you feel the buzz?
Definitely. And like I say, they as a host were fantastic, and we just had such a great group of young men, and the way they traveled and the way they handled themselves, and to get down early and get that kind of deficit, but then fight back, and the pride they took in to come back and have a chance to win it at the end. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that.
Coach, was there any incentive of the fact that they're playing on national television on ESPN? Because it's one thing if you're in college, obviously, and you're at a big university, you're accustomed to playing, on the big networks. But when you're in high school, that can be kind of a rare occurrence. Did your team have a little extra energy because they knew they were going to be on ESPN?
Sure, that was an awesome honor to get to represent Florida and get to represent St. Johns County and our school. And I'm pretty biased. I think Bartram has that kind of electric game day atmosphere every Friday night. A little plug there, anybody that wants to come out and see great high school football. But it was special to be on ESPN, and they just did a great job of taking care of everything, getting us up there, and having a great opponent like that. And it was a really fun event.
Darrell Sutherland, Bartram Trail head coach, with us here on Action Sports Shacks on ESPN 690. Okay, you know what's going on in Jacksonville. You can probably feel the buzz, right? From Urban Meyers, the head coach, to Trevor Lawrence and that number 1 pick, likely to be the guy. When you saw him play that high school Friday night, when you had watched tape on him, you've seen a lot of good players. You've coached a lot of good players. What were your first impressions?
The first thing was he was as good as advertised. Everything that we had heard about him, not just as a player. There were some throws that he had made in game film that we saw coming in. We knew what we were getting into, and we're excited about it. We talk about we always want to try and play the best competition, and he was definitely a great example of that. But some of the throws he made in our game too, where just the athleticism to get the ball off and the velocity and the placement, he's pretty special. And so for our guys to get to compete against him and to go out there and get to see that talent level was pretty fun.
Isn't that kind of what high school football is about a little bit too? You kind of go back to like Bruce Springsteen's "Glory Days" song, where you're having a beverage as a 45 or 50-year-old, and you're talking about the old days playing high school baseball, basketball, football, whatever it might be, and say, hey, yeah, we played against Trevor Lawrence. And listen, you've had many a player that guys would be like, yeah, we played against Joey Gatewood or Riley Smith, or you name the guy, right? Trevez Johnson at Florida right now. But isn't that kind of the fun part? I bet the kids that played on that team in that game, ESPN night, lightning delay against Trevor Lawrence in Cartersville, Georgia. I mean, that's a story they'll tell.
Yeah, sure. That's those are some great memories, and some of the guys that they got to play. I'm sure Johnny Amell is going to be able to tell, hey, I sacked that guy, when they're watching the game, and there's some neat memories like that. But I'd say just from a competitive standpoint, it was such a good game and so cleanly played. You could tell that he was a great leader. The 2 QBs you mentioned on our side, Riley and Joey, both fantastic young men. I think a lot of that played into just being such a great competitive game and so clean and so, it was, kind of a slice of Americana, what high school football should be like.
Coach, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories here. We were just across the street at a barbecue place. I'm told to go over there because there's some Trevor Lawrence pictures inside, and so we went over there. And a gentleman who owns the place was telling us. I mean, he's reciting play by play from that night. And think about all the big games they've had here. Lawrence and Cartersville won a couple state championships. They just lost in the state championship this year. So there's been a lot of good high school football. But he's remembering that game from 2017. And he remembered Gatewood and Riley Smith, and he said the undertold story about that Cartersville team is that the defense was very good for Cartersville. But you guys almost erased a 28-point deficit. And so I think you still stick out in the minds of folks here in a little northwest of Atlanta because of your offensive prowess and what you guys were able to do. Like you said, it just kind of clicked a little bit too late that night.
Right. Well, I'd say we're incredibly blessed to have the young men, the honor to coach the guys that we get to coach, and we do. We've got some tremendous players in our history, and that group certainly was emblematic of that. There were some guys out there that just made some incredible plays, and as I said, just ended a little short.
I'll tell you another story here. We're just talking to Coach Connor here, who's now the head coach. He wasn't the head coach here. He was a defensive coordinator at the time. And he said that Trevor Lawrence actually asked to go in the game on the second to last play at safety so they could hopefully close the game out. And he said if you guys had made one more play right before the horn, he might have put him in. I bet you didn't know that.
That would have been funny. Yeah, because we threw Gatewood out there receiver, so it could have been Lawrence on Gatewood.
Yeah, nobody would have expected that matchup. Lawrence on Gatewood on the outside instead. We're visiting with Darrell Sutherland, head coach Bartram Trail. They played Cartersville, Georgia, Cartersville High School on an ESPN game back in 2017. Let me ask you a little bit more about Trevor. I don't know how much of a fan are you now? Like, you have so much to do high school-wise, and I know in the fall, but do you watch the college game a lot? All your former players that are playing, did you catch some Clemson games? I mean, what do you think of him from a football standpoint, as this guy that Jacksonville's going to have as their franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I'd say one, from what I typically watch on Saturday is I like to watch all of our former players that are out there. And so my wife will laugh because I've usually got the TV on and another TV somewhere and a computer with an ESPN3 pulled up, and have really been blessed, just the guys that we've had come through that are getting a chance to play right now. So I watch it with a little different view now as far as just catching up and watching those guys. But got to watch a number of Clemson games with some of our guys that were playing against them, and obviously I'm a Coach Sweeney fan too, and just the character that he has and the way that he runs that program. So I've seen him play, and I've obviously seen him in the national championship games and the playoffs. The way that he handles himself, and you're getting a pretty polished player there, but also what seems like a really good young man who's going to be not just an impact on the football program, but also on our community.
Yeah, very good. Darrell Sutherland with us, Bartram Trail High School head coach. Let me ask you to finish up with this. The other two guys in that game, and maybe even more, you can tell us about even more players, but the headliners, Joey Gatewood, went to Auburn, then to Kentucky. How's Joey doing? And then Riley Smith, who, I think he's gone from quarterback to tight end and made that transition. How is he doing as well?
They're both doing really well. I'm just so proud of them as far as the way that we talk about not going, kind of like I was just talking about Trevor Lawrence, going to not just impact the team, go impact the campus and the community. And I feel like both those guys have done that. When Boise was playing Florida State, they came and practiced at our site, and when Riley got off the bus, it was like, you can tell he's the mayor of Boise. I mean, he is. They love him there. And same thing with Joey. You can tell in just talking with the staff and the other players there at Kentucky, those are guys that are truly being a positive influence on everybody around them. So just really excited for those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Darrell Sutherland, Bartram Trail head football coach. Coach, we appreciate you on short notice coming on and talking a little bit about that game in 2017. I know it was a memorable one for you guys, unfortunately on the short end, but they talk about it up here quite a bunch, so you left a lasting impression.
That's great. Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Darrell Sutherland, head football